So, Joan, thanks for coming by today. When we refer to Washington, what does that mean?
So we're really talking about three sources of influence on plans coming out of Washington. One is Congress, obviously, and any laws that they might pass that might impact plans. Another is the regulatory agencies. The primary ones that are involved with retirement plans are either Department of Labor, that really makes rules about the fiduciary side of things, or the Treasury Department or IRS that makes rules about the tax code side of things. And then obviously there's the president himself, who also impacts policy impacting plans.
Or maybe soon to be herself, as we'll talk about later.
Possibly.
As we look at Washington, as you've just described it, they're collectively they're pretty busy right now. Let's jump into the first thing, which is their efforts to address the coverage gap. Can you maybe just take a minute and define what we mean by coverage gap?
Sure. So what we've experienced since 401k plans were introduced is that really the most effective way that people voluntarily save for retirement is through employer-sponsored plans. But according to the Department of Labor's estimates, about half of all American workers, or about 68 million workers, do not today have access to employer-based retirement savings. And most of those people either work for very small companies that don't sponsor a plan, or they work for companies that do sponsor a plan, but they are part-time or seasonal employees who don't have access to the plan because they don't meet the eligibility requirements. Now, there are some challenges to that estimate. That is kind of a snapshot look, that 50%, 68 million number. So there's been some other studies that say the number is closer to 80% when you take into account the fact that some people save through their spouse. Other people may not be in a plan because they're a college student working part-time, but they will ultimately end up being able to save in a plan. So there's some debate about exactly where that number lies, but there's really no debate about the fact that there are significant numbers of employees primarily working part-time or working for small employers who don't have access to a plan.